Stuart, can you talk about completing cycles, please?
I mean, it seems like I almost talk about that every day, the completion of cycles. I mean, look, I can only refer to my own life, and things that have happened to me in my life and the way I used to treat life when I was younger, where I never completed anything. I would start projects and then eventually just walk away from them, never finishing them. And I needed to learn to complete cycles. I needed to learn to bring things to an end, to a conclusion, where it was part of an organic, state of just completing something. And as soon as I learned to do that, my entire life changed. It enabled me to recognize, first of all, just about everything in this world works in cycles. I mean, you can start with nature, you can start with time, seasons, you know, uh, and go into just about anything, the development of businesses, relationships, work in cycles. Women have periods once a month. It's a cycle. They call it a cycle. And it seems like everything in life has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And yet we as human beings, we cling to what was instead of allowing ourselves the freedom to experience, the newness of life, the freshness of life, and the new cycle that has something remarkable to teach us about our own growth and our own inner development. And this is very difficult for people to deal with because most people really cling to the past. They cling to what was. They do it consciously, they do it unconsciously. And it stultifies their growth. It keeps them from embracing the newness of life, the new year, the morning. I mean, the sun comes up in the morning, it doesn't come up in the evening. And we have to be able to embrace that sun. Yamshi, you're sitting horizontal. You got to fix your computer. Hello? Yeah, that's better. If you've got to be able to embrace the sun as it rises inside you and it brings freshness. You got to embrace the spring as it manifests inside you. It brings freshness, it brings newness, and it brings the ability to be able to see, how, winter really leads to spring. Everything dies in the winter, and yet death becomes rebirth. When we go through cycles, everything dies in us, and there's rebirth, unless we cling to the past. And then there's always tension. There's always staleness. There's always repetition. And there isn't that sun coming up inside us, that morning freshness, which is so essential for people to enjoy their lives. Everything gets stale. Things are born, they evolve, and they come to an end. And yet we're living in that staleness and not allowing ourselves to experience that freshness, that newness that life has to offer. And the newness doesn't mean we walk away from our families, we walk away from our jobs, our business. It means, you understand, we bring something fresh to those situations, something new to those situations, something more nurturing to those situations. So the love and the commitment in those situations goes even deeper. I mean, I hope that's clear, because it's really important. And yet, almost everybody has all these structures built inside them, clinging to the past. clinging to the past. And living life, not in the present, but living life the way things happened 30 years ago. When we were hurt, this happened to us, somebody did something that really hurt us, and we cling to those emotions. You understand? And we use them in our present day life instead of letting go, being born again, seeing the sun rise inside us, seeing spring come, surrendering to winter. Because if we surrender to winter, then it'll make it possible for us to truly experience spring. If we're all pissed off because winter's here and there's snow and rain and cold and we keep complaining, we don't give ourselves the time to rest and allow the newness to manifest inside. I mean, it's very Shaivite, it's death and rebirth, which is really the way all of life works, dying and being reborn. Not only do we leave the earth at the end of our life, but during our lives, we go through death and rebirth. Cycles end, new ones come. Cycles end, it's death and rebirth. We have to let go of everything. And we can't, if we're in a relationship, we can't expect somebody to be 30 years later they were the day we married them. It's not possible. You're living with a completely different person. And in order to appreciate the newness in them, we have to appreciate the newness in ourselves. So it's a very good question, this thing of death and or cycles that come to an end, beginnings, fruition, endings. And people freak out. The beginnings, when a child is born, everybody is celebrating. When somebody dies, everybody's crying and moaning, and one is organic as the other. And yet that child can be born every single day inside every human being. Literally, we give birth to ourselves. We can experience that child being born every day inside us by not clinging to what was, the way we were 10 years ago. Nobody's the way they were 10 years ago. We're all different. You want to really love somebody, love them for the way they are today, not the way they were 5 years ago. Because they're not the same person. Every minute we change. And, I frankly love that. I always, even before I met Rudy, I hated, stagnant water, that stagnant life that so many people live and never open to the miracle of change and what it brings to one's life. I couldn't stand it when I was, that's the thing that made me leave home. I couldn't stand the fact that I would grow up to become what my parents wanted me to become. And it just represented for me living a stagnant life. I didn't want it. And it didn't mean I didn't love them. I did. But I want to embrace that newness in myself, that miracle, that sacredness of life changing all the time. I wanted to open to, literally what Shiva has to teach, which is change, movement, endless movement in the universe. And all great religions teach that. They all do. Christ taught that, The Buddha taught that. Krishna taught that. Does anyone have a question? Does anyone else have a question? I mean, ask
Um,
questions.
I
Yeah.
have a question about uh, the meditation practice. So, how do you meditate when you close your eyes? What happens within you? I know this could be a fundamental question, basic question, but Jan taught me the double breath and focusing on
Yamshi, excuse me. You have to talk up. I just got a little older last weekend, and I
Oh,
don't.
okay. Sorry, sorry about that. But like, if you could let us know, like what your meditation practice is like when you close your eyes, that would be awesome.
What my practice is like when I close my
Yes,
eyes?
yes.
Well, I close my eyes for only one reason, to give them a little bit of a rest, relax them. But the whole purpose of this meditation, you see, it's twofold. We live in a world where we're blind to what is going on in the world and what exists around us. And when you do this meditation with your eyes open, understand you are here, you're in the world, and at the same time, you're focused in the chakra below the navel. So you're focused at the core of your being, building the strength so that you can live your life consciously every day in the world. So we do open eye meditation for that reason, and there's another reason. The energy, Shakti, it flows and will enter your system through the eyes. You look into a person's eyes, you can see the deepest parts of their being. And the eyes will absorb, like vacuum cleaners, it will absorb the Shakti, it will go into the chakra system and help to build you and strengthen you and develop your spiritual practice. So the open eye meditation is done for those reasons. And the reason I close my eyes is I just, if you keep your eyes open, you got to relax them, close them, relax for a few seconds, and then open them again. Because the real power in this meditation is learning how to be in the world by keeping your eyes open and learning how to be centered in yourself, in the chakra below the navel, at exactly the same time. That gives you the ability to choose, to make conscious decisions, to see what's real in the world, what's an illusion, how to use life as a way of developing your spiritual life, and how to recognize that even the illusion of life is sacred. It's all one's teacher. And when you're centered below the navel and you see the work, you begin to recognize that life is a sacred thing. It's one's teacher. And that one needs to build that inner life, that strength in order to be able to live in the world consciously, where life isn't constantly ripping us apart. I mean, there's a lot of craziness in the world, a lot of insanity in the world that goes on. And people get torn apart because they're not centered, they're not focused. So everything outside themselves drains their energy. When you're focused here and you're also focused there, the external world is not going to drain your energy. You will be able to see it clearly and make conscious decisions about how you want to live. And the reason I close my eyes is, you can't keep your eyes open for 45 minutes. You got to close them, relax them and then continue to do the open eye meditation. And also, when people meditate with their eyes closed, they cut themselves off from life. And the whole purpose, we're born here. We have to learn how to be here and to live in the wonderment of what life is all about. And nobody is going to learn to live in the wonderment of life if they don't have a strong foundation inside themselves. If the chakra below the navel, the chi, the power, isn't highly developed inside themselves. And when that is highly developed, then the heart can stay open. It has something to rest in, has foundation. The mind gets quiet. And we see a whole different world. It's not just a world of tension. It's a world of what is being taught to us that we need to know to grow spiritually. And the interesting thing about it, the external world, it really is a reflection of each and every one of us. What we see outside ourselves is a mirror image of ourselves. And if we are centered, if we're balanced, if the heart is open, the mind is quiet, we begin to see a peaceful world. We see a different world. And we can deal with all the tension and stuff that goes on without allowing it to rip us apart. So I think what you asked is a very important question, Yangshi. It really is. Because it's the key to truly developing an inner life that is strong enough to truly learn ultimately how to live here in a peaceful way, to be quiet inside, to be loving inside, to be compassionate, to live that way. Not to be judgmental, forgiving, to be forgiving about all the indiscretions that go on in this world. And that's very much part of what this meditation exercise is all about, learning how to do these things by being centered and being connected to life. And also, through the eyes, you're receiving Shakti, the energy that flows through, you receive through the eyes. I know most people do closed eye meditation, but I frankly learned years ago not to care about what most people do. I have to do what really works for me. And this, I learned, works for me. It's a miracle, I never knew anything. When I was younger, I was taught closed eye meditation, chanting mantras and, yapa beads and malas and all this stuff, and then I learned, learn to use your mind and breath properly. Learn to be centered and be in the world at the same time. Changed my life. Does anyone else have a question? If there are no more questions, then there'll be meditation on Sunday. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you all. And thank you for being here again. Probably sick of hearing it. Thank you for being in my life, and for making it possible for me and for you to do this kind of deep inner meditation practice. That can truly help one, develop a state of enlightenment while they're living in the world. So God bless you all and thank you. And there'll be class on Sunday, and I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you,
God
Stuart.
bless you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Welcome.